All right, if you've been paying attention to the car internet for the past couple weeks, you probably heard a lot about Nissan's announcement of the new Proto Z, or 400Z, or Z35. It's the newest Z car, slated to come out in 2022, and it's supposed to be an adoring homage to the Z cars of yesterday. But frankly, I'm just not too sure. It's been 12 years since Nissan released a new Z car, and in recent years they've been struggling to stay relevant as a brand. So it's not surprising that now they would announce the release of this new Z car, not unlike an aging father trying to stay relevant with his teenage son. Nissan has promised that the new car will come equipped with a twin-turbo V6 and a 6-speed manual gearbox. And hey, that sounds great, if not for the manual option alone. And assuming that the plan is to stay in competition with the current tuner landscape, industry projections say that the car has to come at a competitive price point. A, to seize a market share from the Toyota Supras and FRSs out there, and B, to not undercut their own in-house GTR sales. All good things, for sure. That being said, I don't know what I'm really supposed to be excited about here. Frankly, the car just doesn't do it for me. But maybe that's because I don't know what the car is supposed to do for me. And that has a lot to do with the fact that I own an actual Z car, the first Z car, a Datsun S30. But so do many others, and whether you own an S30 or a 300ZX, we're all gonna have different opinions about what this car means to us. All right, so we're gonna go take a ride with our buddy Pete here, another Z owner, and unpack this whole thing.
Excited, let's do it.
Cool. All right, well look, I'm not asserting that the new Z is not objectively on paper the most impressive Z we've ever seen, because it is. The thing that I'm a little wary of is that it just seems like Nissan's playing it safe. They're doing exactly what the rest of the market's been doing for well over a decade, and it just doesn't inspire me at all.
Yeah, I mean, to that point, my reaction to this was similar to my reaction to a lot of these made modern classics, where I'm wondering if they're celebrating history or selling it to me. You know, if it's really a situation where they're trying to get back to their roots, to what organically made them tick, then we could be in for something great. But if it's a situation where, you know, they're dried up and out of ideas and just going back to the well, then yeah, we could end up with something really stale, boring, and unfortunately, like you said, way too safe.
I don't know, I feel like ultimately, for the past 15 years or so, we keep seeing these like factory modified tuner cars being released with all these different options and different packages you can buy. And every time they come out, they're like overly styled, kind of hitting the mark, but what they're doing is they're kind of underselling us on our own potential to modify these things and make them cool. I mean, they're selling to a tuner market that has forever embraced modifying your own car by selling these things, pre-packaged. And it's just fucking corny.
I'm thinking of like the Jurassic Park scene, when he's like, they're on the tour and they're trying to show him the T-Rex.
Right, okay.
And it's like, hang on, where is it? Let's tempt it out with this goat strapped to a post. The T-Rex doesn't want to be fed, it wants to hunt. And I kind of feel like there is some sort of like a symmetry there, where I just feel like a lot of these cars that are made to order, here, this is what you're supposed to like, tend to actually turn us off instead, because a lot of the magic is taken out of it.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it comes down to expression and means.
Yeah.
And when, like you said, you get these over-stylized cars that are the ready-made article right off the showroom floor, where's the opportunity to express yourself?
Right, and it's kind of where you see, the tuner market embrace things that aren't the obvious choice. That's why you see like 240s being everybody's favorite drift car. And yeah. But meanwhile, for the past, how long have people really been building cool 350s and 370s?
I gotta tell you, I mean, I was, although hesitant, at least excited about this car potentially coming out, because I really wasn't even sure there was a Pulse anymore.
Right.
I couldn't even tell you if 370s were still on the market.
The market at large, you know, and the consumer base for these cars is really short-sighted and uninspired itself. It's like everybody's kind of caught up in the ubiquity of immediate relevance. Everybody's on Instagram, they gotta click through quickly on what they like, they gotta be handed everything, everything's kind of like fed to you in a way that people don't really expect more of themselves. So, I mean, why would a car manufacturer go out of their way to give you something completely off base when they know exactly what formula these fucking idiots are gonna respond to? You know, it's like, make no mistake, the first renderings we saw of this thing within like 24 hours, there you had your Rocket Bunny Z35. Like, really? Another fucking Rocket Bunny rendering? Here we go. Here's an opportunity for something to really stand out on its own, and nobody, whether it be Nissan or the people looking to consume the fucking thing, no one's thinking outside the box.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing it right now, and it is probably magnified just because of how much more in your face everything tends to be. But there's always been a crowd that people have followed. Oh, this is the cool way I'm supposed to modify my car? I mean, we've been around the scene long enough to know that there are certain things that just get into vogue, and then people go, this is the ready-made mod that someone's going to tell me is cool, and that's why I'm going to justify spending this money on it, rather than something I actually think is cool and painting my own canvas.
Like us. I mean, we're part of this still that are going to, you know, write our own story with whatever we have. But I really just feel like the market at large is kind of all about keeping up instead of building up. Instead of building up their ideal car, they're financing the newest thing, which is just like pretty cheap to me. I feel like there's been this big shift in hot rodding and tuning culture in the past like 15 years to just kind of finance the newest car versus financing your dream build, you know? And the manufacturers have noticed that, and now you have all these extra ramped up versions of their performance models where it's like you the fucking Thundercat Hell Kitten and the, you know, the Spec V limited tuner edition and the, you know, like everybody's got their own version of what the hot model's supposed to be instead of just giving you a base model to work off of.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I also think that souped up versions of cars isn't necessarily a new thing, but it's always been the job of the person with the car to make of it what they're supposed to, you know? This culture has always been about sort of not fighting, but in opposition of the, I'm just gonna buy this thing, because the grassroots version of it that I grew up in was no one really had enough to buy anything like that.
Right.
It was always about sort of taking what you can and expressing yourself the best way possible with what means you have. There's a difference between a WRX and an STI versus you know, a fast car and then the Hell Demon Cat version of it, where it's literally only in existence to take money out of someone's pocket.
Right.
Whereas I think inherently there was a reason why you had an STI, an Evo versus a Lancer or an Impreza. It would have made me feel a lot better if their marketing for this new car didn't have it paraded in front of a bunch of old S30s, because that's
Right.
going to get people to buy it.
Right.
Look, it
That
is
annoys
this
me
car.
too.
You
Yeah.
can't have that car, so here's the new version of it that you
Exactly.
can go and buy.
Yeah,
But
I think the bigger issue for me in that regard is that it just kind of insults your intelligence. You know, it just kind of says like, we know what you like, we know what you want. Here's a couple design nods to an older model. Aren't we kind of harkening back to the heyday? Isn't that what you want? And it's like, well, no, actually, because the heyday and the things that we appreciated about that point in time aren't present in the tuner culture at large. And you're not facilitating it, and the fucking morons building the same car at every fucking car meet aren't helping the case any either. And I thought that maybe this Z would have come out and been something different enough for what it is to inspire people to reshape their own molds.
let's just hope that what this comes along as has some inherent value to it and also helps people reshape what these cars were, what this car and your car mean to you, to a new crop of people who didn't necessarily get to experience those. As someone lucky enough to have this car, I'm not going to begrudge someone wanting to have something that's like it. For me, at the heart of this is a balancing act between past and progress. the father-son dynamic. There's a responsibility to be had by all for it to work properly and yield results. Father needs to pass on knowledge and values, and importantly know when not to pass on and when to step away. Son's job is to be receptive to the lessons learned, but also know that nothing is without flaws, and it can't just be emulated. You can't just copy the homework. You got to put away the tracing paper. I think it's important to take away that although history should never be sold, what it should be is a welcoming foundation, and above all, never a deterrent to progress. Consider the artistry of Nissan. Da Vinci couldn't just paint the Mona Lisa over and over, but that didn't mean he couldn't still paint.
All right, so ultimately what this really boils down to is that car companies need to stay relevant, okay? They need to make new cars, they need to stay in business. And that is gonna mean that oftentimes they're gonna have to traffic in the lanes of particular R&D. My only concern is that currently, as far as the bigger car manufacturers are concerned and the tuner culture at large, things are plateauing in very uninspiring ways. But that might just be my problem, you know? Like, I'm always gonna choose to resurrect the Relic as opposed to running towards what's new and flashy. That's just me. I mean, some people, when they go on vacation, they choose to go to an all-inclusive resort where everything's provided, food, amenities, whatever. Other people get in an RV, they take a road trip, they go camping, they rough it out. And I think that's a big distinction to be made. Some people, it's all about the journey, not so much the arrival point. And next time we see you, there's obviously not gonna be a 400Z in here, or anything new for that matter, okay? What we're gonna do is we're gonna work on these two old heaps and bring them up to a level that we can enjoy on my own terms, okay? So that's what I like to do. That's how I see cars as an enjoyable thing, all right? Quite frankly, it's probably the reason I haven't been on vacation myself in quite some time, but it is what it is. We'll see you next time.